welcome to episode 52 of Missed Mando, Ontario's source for the latest in the disc golf world. I'm your host, Robbie Holden, joined as always by my friend and co-host, Sean Galbraith. Shawnee G, how you doing, and what you been up to since our last episode? It's been terribly wintry in our area of late.
It's been a little wintry, a smidge of the winter being winter. It's been really, really fun. I got my new Sophia Dunica swag. I got a couple of hats. I got these nice little bag patches here. I got really nice little pin. Love to see it come in. The logo, like amazing logo. And of course, it's an S, so we're going to say it's mine. Really like her new swag. It is great. Definitely go on her website and order some. Also coming in the mail, hot off the press, we got a shipment from Gabe Robinson of Project 15. Now I haven't looked in this yet, so I'm going to open it live on the pod.
Suspense.
So as a thank you to the voters in your Disc Golf Ontario course vote, he has sent us a little care package that we're going to give away to our listener on the show. And let's see what we got here. Pulling things out. This feels like a Project 15 mini. Pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, digging deep here, a whole bunch of Project 15 bag patches. You may have to give those away to more than one person because I don't think anybody needs about 9 of them. We got the shiny Project 15 metallic sticker. That's really
classic.
Sweet. We have
got one of those on my laptop.
We've got a lot of those stickers, so we're going to give away a bunch of those. And we got a disc here. It is a Champion Glow Firebird.
Ooh.
With the Project 15 mini stamp. This is sweet. I may have to win this myself. We'll have to see. But this is really nice. This is Champion Glow Firebird. So we're going to give away at some point, probably on Instagram. It's probably the easiest way to do it. So make sure you follow us on Instagram to find out when and how we're giving all this stuff away. You don't want to miss it. Thank you. Let's put this stuff down here. Thank you very much to Gabe for sending all this stuff. That was really, really cool. And thank you for all of you who voted in the Ontario course votes poll. The other thing that has been going on, we've got a new course in Toronto. We'll talk a little bit more about it a little bit later, but it's from Jeff and Kara at Chainlink. It is the Beaches Woodbine course, which is basically across the street from the Ashbridges course that everybody knows if you've played in the East End of Toronto. And so it opened on Friday. Saturday, I got the first ace on the course. Let's go. Let's go. Yep. Hit the Galbraith Gap and nailed the ace, a little downhill between the trees. And it was great. It was great. It was the servo, which I've barely ever thrown before, a glow servo. I was getting ready to get practicing it to see how it flew so I could use it at the Dentonia Glowy event that went down with Dr. Glow and Chainlink on Friday night, a couple nights ago. It was super fun, super sick. And it was a beautiful ace. That's 2 aces inside of 30 days. That's pretty great. How about you? What have you been up to?
That is pretty incredible.
Last month.
In the last month, a big fat 0. I've never hit 2 aces in the same year, let alone in the same month. So you're definitely putting one up on me there, as if you hadn't already by getting an ace during my birthday round with me 2 years ago. That was already planting your flag. So now you got another one up on me with the with the aces. But no, that is sick. I'll have to get out to that course and see the line that you hit to cash the ace. See if I can do it as well, which I obviously won't be able to. But as for me, not. I was going to say not much going on, but it's not anything going on. It has been no disc golf being played. I haven't watched any new disc golf. I know that there's some coverage of stuff coming out, one of which we will talk about a little bit later in the episode after our interview. But I have not consumed any of it. I have not touched a disc. I have not done anything. It has been very much a lazy time for me right now. Lots of binge watching some new good shows that are going on out there. I know you made a Facebook post the other day that you were rewatching season 1 of Fallout. I've been keeping up with season 2 as it's been coming out so far. Really, really good. Season 1 was awesome. Season 2 has been really good so far. Welcome to Derry. Have you had a chance to watch that, Sean? It is bonkers.
Not yet. Not a big on the horror fan, so we'll see. But it's
me either.
Good.
I'm not really a big horror guy, and there are definitely some things I wouldn't really say like outright scary, but things in the show where I'm like, oh my, what am I looking at right now? That happened almost every episode, basically. But the overarching story that goes along with it, and a bunch of other sort of tie-ins to other Stephen King works, like references to Shawshank Prison and stuff to The Shining. I'm always fascinated by like bigger sort of universe type building, like Star Wars and Marvel, how so many things tie in. That's always fascinated me. But amazing show. I'm not a big horror guy. It was one of the first horror things that I've watched and was like really, really into it. But yeah, also some things that you'll be like, what in the hell am I watching right now? And it starts off like pretty quick. Like you'll be saying that within the first 10 minutes of episode 1, basically. So highly recommend that. But yeah, other than that and watching like some movies and stuff, playing some video games, haven't really been doing a whole lot. But one thing that I did do, and you also did, we just did, was have a great interview with our feature guest for this episode, Ben Smith. We mentioned it last pod. We were trying to get him on. Didn't work out for our last episode, but we got Ben in for an interview for this episode, and we certainly made up for lost time. It is a hefty interview. The three of us together, me, Sean, and Ben, like to talk. That was certainly evident in this interview, but it was a fantastic talk with Ben. So without further ado, let's send it on over to Ben Smith. We will be right back here on Missed Mando. Our next guest is a legend in Canadian disc golf, especially in the Maritime provinces, as a co-founder of the Maritime Disc Golf Association and owner of Flickline Disc Golf. He's TD'd over 70 PDGA events, including multiple Canadian championships and the first ever DGPT event in Canada with the Silver Series Discmania Open in 2023. He's a prolific course designer, having designed and installed 60 courses, and alongside Duncan Dixon was named as a recipient of the 2024 PDGA Canada Volunteer of the Year Award. He's also a talented player with a current rating of 943 and 35 career PDGA wins. It's a pleasure to welcome to the Missed Mando podcast from Pugwash, Nova Scotia, Ben Smith. Ben, thanks so much for joining.
Oh, man, thanks for having me.
The pleasure is all ours, and obviously we have so much that we want to talk to you about while we have you on. But as we like to do with first-time guests on the podcast, let's take things back to the start of your disc golf journey. When did you first discover disc golf, and who or what originally got you introduced to the sport?
I was actually thinking about this on the drive over. I have a weird historical storms have seemed to bring out the best of me in disc golf. So during White Juan, I think in 1999, Halifax was hit with a major winter snowstorm. And my best friend and I thought, hey, what a great time to go out and take our ultimate frisbees and throw them against inanimate objects. And so we did that from like midnight one night till 4 a.m. And we thought we had invented this game and we are legends and it was amazing. And I never thought about it again for 4 years until I was standing in a parking lot in Denver, Colorado at a fish show. And somebody had these frisbees with a hula hooper. And at the time, I was a pretty prolific hula hooper, doing some work with some friends of mine from Cirque du Soleil. And I was like, hey, man, I love hula hooping. I love frisbee. And the guy was like, hey, you'd heard of disc golf? And I was like, no, not at all. So he told me what the game was in concept. And so he sold me these 2 frisbees. One I still have. The driver was absolutely terrible. But regardless, I went to a course that I found by word of mouth, and old paper maps, and I drove over. It was probably 7-ish in the morning. I was there by myself. I played 18 holes and then I just sat in the parking lot like a creeper waiting for somebody to show up so I could be like, okay, the next person, you got to tell me like what the hell this game is, because I know I'm already in for life. And so I sat there, a guy showed up, we played around together. He had a cool forehand. I was like, okay, this is it. And from that moment on in 2001, I started knocking down courses on paper maps all across North America. And there was a time where I had played over 50% of the courses in Canada. So like pre-2007, because I worked across, and I'd drive across and you'd find out a new course and you'd just knock it down and play it. So I probably played for the first 7 or 8 years, 90-ish% by myself. So just like go to the park, maybe meet random people there. So the community part came way later. And then obviously I found out in 99 or in 2003, I did not invent disc golf, and it had a long and rich history, and now I'm happy to be a part of it.
Just a quick follow-up. Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah, I knew some weird people. And in the early,
you knew some awesome people.
I did. I still do. During that like period of me kind of like leaving home and working on the road, I ended up meeting some people who owned a pretty major store in Denver, Colorado called Urban Arts. And it was very eclectic. We gathered around music. And a lot of the people that would kind of frequent in there ended up being like performers of different kinds. And so, yeah, for like a few years, I used to like hula hoop fire and like, used to be a very prolific juggler and do all these like really cool things around music like the couple of different bands I've followed. I've seen some bands like a ridiculous amount of time. I mean, I've seen Fish a dozen times and I wouldn't even call myself a Fish fan. I just kind of like, they're okay. But I just loved the concept of the music scene and live music. And as a person who's played a lot, I've recorded a handful of albums myself, and I'm just like fell in love with music and fell in love with kind of the performance aspect of it. So yeah, it seemed like a very natural thing when I was 21 years old.
And I think for anyone who has met you and who knows you, this will in no way be surprising to anyone. This seems entirely, I say this in the most complimentary way, entirely like something that you would have done in your life.
Yes, thank you. I take that as a compliment.
Ben Smith, he ran away to join the circus.
That is correct. I had to run away to come home because I could have stayed on the circus.
So you played your first sanctioned event in like 2014, and you TD'd your first PDGA event in 2025.
No,
that should be 2015.
What? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, who wrote that? 2015. I was going to say like. No,
I'm actually
right.
surprised.
Apologies for the.
That's okay. I'm surprised that I didn't TD my
terrible note.
If I'm being completely honest,
may not have been a sanctioned one.
Yeah, that is probably in line. Interesting. I would have thought that we would have made an event in 2008 or 2009, a PDGA event. But you're probably right. That is probably correct. Yeah. I
I would
played.
not assume that anything we say is correct.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. It was way back. I think when Duncan and I met in 2007. I think in 2008, under kind of his influence, we did certify an event, but we it might not have been. It could have been unsanctioned. But yeah, was there a question?
What was Maritime? I assume you were in the Maritimes back then. What was Maritime disc golf? What was the scene like at that point?
It was me and Duncan, and then whoever we could get from my family to come and play.
So it's very small community.
No,
basically have single-handedly built it.
Look, we've known each other for a while now. I got really lucky, but I also went all in. So in 2014, it was pretty apparent even back. I should have played events. I was living in Vancouver in 2004, 5, 6, 7. I should have been playing events there, but my roommate didn't want to play PDGA events. So we just played by ourselves, and I should have just went out and did it because I was a competitive athlete my whole life. I enjoyed that kind of style. And so really there was no reason, but I didn't, and that's okay. But when I started to travel around a little bit, and I don't mind talking to people, that's for sure. Again, Sean, you'd know that. So I just started asking people questions. And when, I'd be in Utah, I'd be like, hey, why does your club work? Why doesn't it? And from there kind of forward, it was pretty prevalent why some clubs were working and why some weren't. And so I credit a lot. I went to Amsterdam and to Holland in 2014, I think, and I played a Dutch national event. And my friend wanted to go. He wanted to travel, but he was pretty nervous traveling, and he knew I travel a lot. And he's like, "Look, man, I'll buy your flight if you want to come with me for a week." And I was like, "Man, hell yeah!" And I said, "But the problem is, if I go to Holland, I am going to seek out some disc golfers, and I'm going to play disc golf." And at the time, he didn't. He was like, "That's fine." So I kind of have a funny story. Internet, Google away, find some people. Yep. They said, "Hey, we're playing a Dutch national event. Do you want to come with us?" And I said, "Sure." So they said, "Meet us at the subway at 5:30 in the morning, and we'll drive you to the countryside and we'll play this Dutch national event." So it's we get up at 4:30 or get to the subway. It's 5:30. And my friend's like, "Man, are we really going to get in a random car with people you met on the internet to drive you to the Dutch countryside?" And I was like, "Yes, we absolutely are. It's disc golf." Mm-hmm. And 100%. At the end of the day, he was like, "Yeah, that actually makes total sense." And he started playing the next day in Slaughterham Park, and he still plays now, 21 years later. But that event, that Dutch national event, a couple funny things happened. One, the TD made the announcement that he would do the TD talk, the player meeting in English for the dumbest person. And everybody clearly looked at me as I speak a little French. But so I started asking, and on average, they spoke 4.5 languages each. But what that did for me is I met 25 people from all these countries. So from Belgium, Germany, Holland, France. And then I asked them why is disc golf working or not working? And this is 2014. And so that was one of the catalyst events for me to understand that hey, I'm doing this self-serving. If you guys don't know this by now, I'm in this so I can play disc golf and see the cool game and see my kids play or other kids play or just literally anybody, because probably like you guys, I think it's maybe the best game, ever invented. Maybe it's baseball and then disc golf, but they're real close. And so those early days, they showed me a pathway. Don't do this. Don't make it inclusive. Don't make it exclusive. Don't limit who can play and how. Figure out ways to get more people involved. You can prepay and you can do some things to allow people to get in, but you shouldn't be gatekeeping this. This is open it up, show people why. And so by the time we came around, I felt like we had learned a lot of the things that, like, say, Alberta or BC or Ontario were already struggling with. Because by 2014, you guys are 25 years in with baggage and, excuse my language, but bullshit that had happened before that had stopped these people from playing here and won't let this and that. And we didn't have any of that. So we just came and we said, look, this is the system that I think we should be using. Here's how we're going to do these things. And it's going to work through a school system. We're going to run events. We're going to try to build courses. We're going to utilize all of this stuff. And even back then we were trying to capture data. We wanted your name and your email address. Like, that's how we used to do things. And, I always used to joke that for those first 4 or 5 years, I didn't know everybody that played. I knew everyone and their wife and their dog's name and their kid's name and their uncle's name, so it's really, really cool now, 10, 12 years into this, into the Maritimes, to go to events and not know 65% of the people. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I can imagine. It sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. I feel super fortunate.
Well,
yeah.
Well, and it showed some growth pretty early on. You're talking about getting it going in 2014, and in 2018 and 2019, you helped run the Canadian Championships out in PEI, which featured some of the most stacked pro fields ever in a Canadian tournament, including multiple non-Canadian touring pros: Paul Macbeth, Nate Sexton, Simon Lizotte, Nate Perkins, Casey White, Albert Tam, Kristen Lott, Paige Pierce, Zoe Andyke, Deanne Carey, and plenty more. Just absolutely loaded fields. What went into getting so many big names to travel up for those tournaments? And what do you think needs to be done to see more top touring pros coming north of the border these days?
Okay, so there's a couple parts to that. First, luck. Let's just be honest. We caught magic in a bottle at a very interesting time in disc golf that was still fairly approachable. Big player contracts still hadn't quite happened the way that they have in the last 4 or 5 years. It was a little easier to congeal, but we were ambitious. I'm ambitious, I guess. I don't know. I didn't mean to be. I just meant to be trying to do right by people. And so when we had the conceptual idea to run nationals, the reason we chose to run nationals, and this is a Duncan and Ben decision, because we could. And why not? And at the time, Hillcrest, which I still think is one of the gems in Canada, one of the best courses even post Fiona, Hillcrest was not allowed to advertise on a wider scale for a various amount of reasons, with having to do with the provincial government and tourism separation from how they had a turnoff or didn't, lack thereof, off the Trans-Canada. And so there's some internal strife, and we always thought hey, is Hillcrest really good? We think it's really good. We'd like to get people to play it here. And kind of with that idea, and we'd been running events, and every time we brought people to Hillcrest, they're like, this is incredible. You got to show it off. So we were like, well, can we do it? So we tried. And so from 15, 16, 17, I started going to the Glass Blown Open. And Duncan and I would make our mission to do 1 or 2 events a year in other places. So we've come to Ontario and did a couple events at Toronto Island, or, where we could. We got in with the Quebec group, which was a lot of guys formerly from BC, cousin Pete, or Uncle Pete, had been moved back, Pete Lizotte. And, so there was a lot of re-upping with people that we used to know, people that Duncan used to know. And then we'd go to Maine all the time. But when we went to GBO, I went the first time by myself. I was like, oh, these guys are on to something. There was a very big feel, and both you guys have been to GBO, right? No? Okay. Oh, wow, neither. All right. Okay, well, let's put it this way. There's not a single course at the Glass Blown Open that I would want to tell you about. They're okay. They're not knock you. I played lots of your courses in Southern Ontario. There's nothing there that would blow something that you guys have out of the water. They're good courses, but the town of Emporia bought in, And so you don't go to breakfast without somebody being like, oh my God, you're here for GBO. And you don't go to the grocery store had a world map. And the first year that I went on the world map, there was no Nova Scotia. Like it just didn't exist. And I was like, hey, if you want me to stick a pin, you got to get a map. And like to their credit, the next year they updated that map and it reflected like, so it was just like kind of stuff like that. And so I saw like, okay, disc golf can be bigger than just this one event. And I will say, I don't know that if this exactly speaks to the pro thing, but I will say to our game, one of the things that I really don't like is that we recycle a lot of our content, right? Disc golfers are going to see this podcast. That's great. That's your bread and butter. But if we really want to expand out, we have to start to appeal to things that are not disc golf related. So non-disc golfers have to see our content. Non-disc golfers have to see like what our game is, why we love it, that it's a human interest story, that it's sustainable forestry, that it is like one of the best bang for your buck sporting products, be it as a consumer to watch it or as a consumer to play it, that you'll ever get. I don't go to high-end hockey tournaments or baseball tournaments and get my value back in stuff. They're like, here's your $40 fee. Enjoy your 3 games. High five. See you on Sunday. And there's a lot of those reasons that I really, really like disc golf. And I think like it's okay to have some of the things that we're doing. So if I were to, so basically, during those years, I just started asking people, and we went down to, I don't know what I'm doing right now if I'm writing a book, but I'm writing something. It's like 70 or 80 pages. It's documenting a lot about the course that I'm doing in Wentworth and kind of the history of how I got here and why. So I've been thinking about this a lot. But in 2014, we went down to Maine, and it was the first time that Paul Macbeth and Nate Sexton had done their kind of, I'm drawing a blank on what it was called. But anyways, it was a workshop that they were doing, and they were teaching people. It was the first time they came to Maine. And Duncan and I went down there to watch. And when Paul threw his first disc, my immediate thought was, fuck this, I'm out. I'm not playing anymore, because he just did something. I threw my best drive on the same hole. He threw a random disc, and he was 150 feet further than me. And I just thought, it's not possible. So prior to that moment, I thought I was good, and I thought I had a future in the game. After that moment, I had to make a real hard decision of like, do I want to stick in this knowing I'll never be good? I chose yes, but it was a 5 minutes, and I thought about driving home. But after we decided to stick around and watch them just throw and just kind of hang around, and we kind of hung to the back of the crowd, and we didn't really, press up, wasn't looking for an autograph or anything like that. And we ended up, again, striking up conversation. And the person we ended up striking up a conversation turns out to be Nate Sexton's wife. And we just asked her, like, hey, what's touring life like? What's the ins and outs? And I was really shocked to hear that the players were not well taken care of. And I think that has been a historic trend. And so just kind of with a little TLC and a little talking about what it was, she really planted the seed in our mind that like, hey, it's possible. Like, you want Nate to come up, like, make him an offer. So what we did for those first years, and what we've done every year subsequently, if any pro reaches out to us, we put them up. We offer them a free cottage, free place to stay. We budget that in our event. We eventually got to a point where the government would help us subsidize those rooms. We worked on travel logistics, like be it booking hotels or booking flights for them. And then we also did other things, which are just like, hey, they're humans. They're coming to this really cool part of the world. Like, what do you want to see? What do you want to do? So we took Paige and Perkins and those guys deep sea fishing the first year. We've done something every year for the group of pros that choose to come up. So the thing is, especially in Eastern Canada, it's not logistically that hard to travel here, but people think it is. And so in order to help them overcome that, we did a lot of the work to make logistics easier. So we would book 2 years out. We'd work with the Pro Tour. Back then it was a little more flexible. We would get on the back end of main events. We would look at the logistics of like, what do people need to make to get here? Now, we put in a lot of money into those logistics, so our payouts were never as strong as what they could have been if we had just went in. But talk to the person who came 17th and who got a free cottage and ask them if they thought the payout should have been 10,000 more or if they're happy with what they got. And I think that's why you see year one, it was Simon, Sexton, Zoe, and Paige, and Perkins, and Justin Keegan. And then year two, that's when Kristen, Paul, Simon, Drew Gibson, like that's when we double. And we probably don't have COVID, and our next year is probably even bigger. Because I think, again, the vibe was impeccable, that people really, really liked what we were doing. So if I think two things would have to happen. One, to get more pros in Canada, you have to make a real sea change to explain to them that we are our own country, that the vibe here is unique. But you do have to explain to them and show them that like you value that and you will make the logistics easier for them. So if that is something that is important to your event, you are going to have to budget money for that. Again, with our recycling content, a thing that I struggle with the most is that we're not organized in a way. If you were to say, look at Hockey Canada, Baseball Canada, Pickleball Canada, you name it, that is not sport-based players in their organization at the top. That is lawyers and people who like understand how to run a not-for-profit organization and people who work full-time jobs to get grants and funding and money. And I love the disc golfers. I love how passionate we are, but we're like at a crossroads right now where we need to get some level of professionalism behind us that is going after large-scale grants. Because if a regatta happens in Halifax, the floor is $100,000 with the funding that comes from the provincial government. The floor, not the ceiling. And so, so yeah, we have to start looking at ways that we bring in more professionals into our game to help buoyant these numbers. What is a PGA event in Thornhill, Ontario bring in for revenue? Millions, right? And they would get millions from either the government or sponsorship. So we are struggling to make that next big jump. And because we focus so heavily on disc golfers and we think inside of a box of like, oh, maybe we could get $3 off pizza, which is cool, but it's not really going to get us over the hump if that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, long-winded answer. And I don't know if I actually did it, but.
I think you did.
Okay, thank you.
Let's switch gears a little bit here and let's talk course design.
Great.
As Robbie said in the introduction, you are I would say, prolific course designer. Probably have designed more courses in Canada than any other course designer. Probably pretty close to it. Certainly among the top. How did you first get interested in course design? What was the first one you designed, and how did you convince someone to actually let you build it?
Great question. I think 1.5 holes into my first round, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to build this. This is like, I see this. This makes sense to me. Like, you got to go right back to that playing in Halifax in a snowstorm, thinking like, hey, if we hit that telephone pole, that'd be cool. So I think like I've always had that in me. We're probably all of that generation before the internet where you make your own fun. So that was pretty normal. So when I had a really cool system, which when I lived in Vancouver, especially the last year and a half that I lived there, I played 1 to 2 rounds every day. Rain, wind, snow, whatever, every single day. So when we moved back to the Maritimes, there was no disc golf. And you kind of alluded to the question before, like disc golf in the Maritimes existed, but the MDGA wasn't a thing. So there was some like tone poles, like wooden posts in PEI that people played in some. There was a course in Newfoundland that I found out much, much later that existed like in the early 90s. And so there's these tiny little pockets, but it's just like 8, 12, 15 people, mostly men, playing, but nobody or organizing, nobody choreographed. So when I moved back, I thought, like, this is not going to work for me. Like, leaving playing every single day to playing none is not going to work. So I bought 9 baskets, and I asked my grandparents, or my grandfather and my uncle, we have family land. Hey, do you mind if I build a course, like a temp course here for a year, maybe 2? And nobody was using the farmed land, and they said, yeah, sure. So we built a little 9-hole course called Gogan's Greens. It was in the backyard. Pretty early on, even I got my high school to come out. Like, it was kind of a novelty. So like, the newspaper picked up a cool story, and then the province-wide paper picked up a cool story. So that kind of was like the only course from 2008 until 2012-ish. I moved to Pugwash, about 35 minutes away. I took those baskets with me, and I built a 9, and I actually got 9 more baskets, and I built an 18-hole course on a guy. His name was Dennis Brown. He's like a personal hero of mine. He's passed now, but Dennis was just this older guy, had some land. I like asked him, hey, Dennis, like, would you mind? And he was so like, yeah, I will get a little teary eyed thinking about it, because he was just this old guy, and he drove around us side by side, and like, people would show up sometimes from like Florida or Massachusetts or whatever. Cause you'd find it on the PDGA app, and they'd be like, hey man, where do you stay? And Dennis would be like, hey, you can just stay in my house. Like, so they'd either camp in his yard or sometimes like sleep in one of his extra beds. And Dennis just thought it was so cool, that people were coming to his land in this tiny little fishing village. And like, I used to take my daughter around. And so it was just like really, really, we have 1,000 stories like that of disc golf. So, but from 2008 to 2014, I would probably send on average 50 emails a year to like all the municipalities, like anybody with over 500 people, to like corporate, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And like, hey, like, let's build a disc golf course. Let's do it. Here's why. And most times they wouldn't even answer. But if they did, they're like, risk, whatever, and just no. And then in 2015, the town of Sackville, New Brunswick, who had let us build a temporary course once a year for like a weekend or 2 weekends, they finally said, we'd like to go through with this. We'd like to build a course. And the reason that they wanted to build a course is because the park that they had, people were calling the cops like 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, because there was just a bunch of derelict activity happening there. They didn't like sending patrol up, and they asked us, if we let you build the course, will there be people there to look after the park? And we said 100%. And now that is the first town that will give me letters of recommendation. You never see a police officer up there. There's a disc golfer. It's not the most used park. It is still probably like one of my all-time favorites. It's push come to shove, it would be my home course. If we were, doing our team challenges, like, I'd play for Sackville Beach Hill. And I think, if I remember correctly, they paid me about $50 more than the cost of the baskets to build the course. So it was like nothing, we built it in like a day, because there was old trails through there. It was an old campground that had been like decommissioned 20 years ago. There's big open space. There's some, like, I violated a lot of my rules now that I know about, but like, it held up. It's a cool course. Dustin and Zoe came and played it once for a B tier, and it's our opening event every year. It's a cool little course, real throwback, right off the highway. So from 2015, and then the city of Halifax said they would do 9 holes. And then it just kind of like slowly, kind of like just chipping away. Most of the time, I mean, from 2015 to, let's say, pre-pandemic, if I made $500 on a course, I was pretty happy. I would get paid sometimes for labor, but it was just kind of like, good luck, right? And which was totally fine. I had a landscape company. I lived pretty meager. I had no real problems. Some of the cool things though that did happen, again, I guess I'm just like, I'm go after this stuff. I don't really think about it. I don't think about the end result at all. So I'm like, really, I'm probably more surprised to hear the things that I've done than I was to do them, if that makes sense. But when I went to Glass Blown Open, the third year that I went there, I was just so sick of doing these meetings. And like the first two times that I sat down in corporate offices in the United States with disc golf companies, they couldn't find Nova Scotia on a map. And they didn't know that you could drive north of Maine and east and hit land. They were like so shocked by this fact. And I was like kind of offended, you know, because I got to friggin' learn the United States Constitution and like history of all these things. And I'm like, I'm expected to know all this stuff. And you can't even tell me that. And so, anyways, so the third year, I was like, I'm not doing any more meetings. Like, I'm just here to play. And I think that was like kind of like took them back. And so that year they said, no, we would like you to come. And they brought in some people from Europe, and I just kind of came out guns blazing. And I was like, all right, if you want things to change, I need this, this, and this. And one of the things was I needed the ability to get my own shipping container of baskets, because it's like a little better in Ontario, but hey, with the tariffs and all the things now, like it's insane to try to buy some of your goods from the States, especially if you get shipped from Europe to the States back to Nova Scotia. So I started in 2017 buying shipping containers of baskets. I've now purchased 4 shipping containers in my lifetime. And it's the only reason that it like logistically makes sense for me. And so I was just in the right place at the right time. And I sold my landscape company in January of 2020. And I went all in disc golf. And like 5 weeks later, the pandemic happened. And I was like, what in the good God did I do? But it ended up being obviously the coolest thing ever, because the pandemic had a huge boom. And I think I built 11 courses in the first full year of the pandemic. And so it was a huge accelerant. And yeah, eventually then people started to pay me, and they started to be like, okay, your services are worth something. And really I think the biggest, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm a good course designer, but I think I'm a great project manager. And I think I have a really great understanding of forestry and a really great understanding of sustainability. And so I think what I can offer more than anything is proof that our game is viable for the long term. It solves a lot of the problems, be it inclusivity of age, gender, and, like physical abilities. Those, like, we check all the boxes. Or sustainability when it comes to environmental stewardship, water retention, resiliency in plants, like green building. And if you really want to be intentional about this, you don't have to waste anything on your disc golf course. And if you really want to like dig into that, then that's like, and then I think I'm your man. Then I think I can really, really help and really show my value. So yeah, that's kind of the Cole's notes.
I know Jeff and Kara of Chainlink, they're really big on the sort of conservation aspect of it, as well, and how disc golf can really complement those efforts. And I absolutely love to see that. Yeah,
we try to talk on a regular basis too. Like I'm all in on those guys. Kudos.
Yeah. So I think you're up to like 60 courses or so. Is that about right?
Yeah. If you all the courses that people would know as like an actual course, I have 64 of them. So like 8 of them are only.
So what are like?
Yeah.
So say what are 3 that people might be most familiar with now?
I think. Well, the Sackville Beach Hill Park, because it's the first and it's like somewhere people always stop. I think that's like a pretty common, like if you're on a road trip and you go to the East Coast, you're probably going to stop in there. So Beach Hill is a good one. Kings Pine, even though it did take a pretty big hit with the hurricane, we've rebuilt it to Kings Pine 2.0. Rose Valley, that was the first one that's where the Pro Tour happened. And then, like I have a lot of municipal courses. I built every public course in Newfoundland. So I'm like kind of proud of that. McNiven in St. John's now is a really cool course, but Corner Brook and Whaleback are like the two, Whaleback especially, but Corner Brook is such a cool property. And then I just finished one in Gander. But the thing is, I think now, obviously, we're probably even on this call as the impetus behind like Wentworth building 2 courses and being lucky enough to have Simon Lazat work with me. And I had Paige Pierce up, and she looks like we're going to go back and do the second course, maybe with Paige this summer. So like, I'm hoping that is the one that really, really takes it, because all the other courses, Rose Valley especially, I think Kings Pine is the only one that got funded the way a course should have got funded. And it was only open 5 weeks before it was destroyed. Like 85% of the tree cover was lost after 5 weeks. But Wentworth now...
And what do you mean by funded the way it should have been funded?
Well, like, I mean, for Rose Valley, let's say, at some juncture, they ran out of money. But the course wasn't, like, necessarily done. And, like, we didn't have the tee pads the way we wanted. We didn't have, like, all the things the way we wanted. So I just was like, the hell with it. I'll just work basically for free. So I put in countless hours to make the pads the way that they were, or to, like, clean this thing, or to get this thing the way you want. Because what you would not see is that all of the courses that I have, when I build them, I like have this huge little secret plan of all the things that could happen. And when I say we shouldn't waste anything, I want to see us take down any piece of forestry materials and utilize that on the course. Your benches, your staircases, your signposts, all of that should come from lumber that we take and we mill, because there's no point in cutting something down to get rid of it, to buy it from somewhere else, yada, yada. Now, it takes time and it takes energy. Also want the tee pads to be a certain size, like all you guys do. 6x12 would be amazing. But the cost ratio between a 4x8 and a 6x12 is like triple. And most people don't have $1,200 to $1,500 to put on a tee pad, when you can put 2 stakes in the ground, call it a pad, move on. It costs you nothing. And, and I get that. And so you build these things out over years. Sackville got built with $50 extra than the cost of baskets. It was only because we had 2 legendary gentlemen, both named Bruce's, that did hundreds of hours of unpaid labor. And I'm sorry, but I have not gone to a hockey rink yet where they say, hey guys, next year when we play, we just need you to come for a month early and put the boards up and flood the ice for us and paint the center line. But why do we do it with disc golf? Because we all love it, and that's fine. And I'm not trying to take that away from anybody, because it is a passion project for me too. But it is not a sustainable model to say, like, I'll build you this course, but it's going to run on perpetuity on you having at least a dozen people who are willing to leave their wife on a Saturday morning at 7:30 when they have a list of chores at home to do 9 hours of unpaid labor at this course forever in order to make it good. Now, if you have a club and that's like a part of your thing and it's like a once a week and it's a very social, okay, I actually get behind that. I love it. It's like what makes things awesome. You want to run leagues through volunteerism, like all that stuff, totally fine. But at some juncture, we are going to have to make a reckoning, because the problem is when a random person comes to my course, any course, they don't know what the budget was. They just know, like, why is it so rough and that rough? Why aren't there benches here? Why aren't there this? Because now I'm a consumer product. And like, oh, I got UDisc 3.5, like, okay. And that's demoralizing to someone who's put 1,000 volunteer hours to get this thing, which would be nothing, up to something. And so like our level of expectation is now like way overshot what the funding model is for these courses. So again, without like a proper NSO and PSOs, National Sporting Organization and Provincial Sporting Organization, which some really great people in Canada are working on. But without that stuff, we're not really funding these things in the same way that they should be funded in line with other major sports. And like, I got nothing against pickleball. I love it. But if you look at the demographic of pickleball, that is a lot of older people, a lot of retired people, a lot of very intelligent people who have come from different sporting backgrounds. And there is a reason why they're getting $750,000 pickleball courts built everywhere that you can, throw a stick at, where we struggle to get $65,000, $75,000 to build a disc golf course. Even though we can take 90 people an hour, 12 months a year, and they can do 16 an hour, 6 months a year. So it's just like, look at the structure of where they're asking for the money, who's organizing, who's doing all that stuff. So that's why I say, so, your average really good course should probably be funded by about $250,000 per shot. And in the municipal world, that is still not a crazy amount of money. And we offer a lot of return on our value. So our ROI is return on investment is massive. And like, I go through and I do my numbers all the time. I'm like, oh my God, this can't be right. Like, I must be overselling it, but I'm not. And so if we want to kind of keep going with these and make more great courses, then we need to have a funding model that allows the courses to get built with people who are professionals in their domain. And it doesn't have to be me. I'm certainly not advocating that. There's a lot of people who are great project managers that if you had a designer and then you say, hey, look, here's how the thing is, and here's where the project management goes, you'd go in and you tackle these things because like, I want fairway bunkers. I want like cool stuff and benches and viewpoints and water stations. And, like I want all those things too, because I think that there'll always be a place for the really cool, short municipal pitch and putt. But I also like want somewhere that I can bring my daughter and her friend or my son and like his homies and, and be like, spend a day here. And like, hey, we'll all drop $20 into the bot if that's what it is. And then like we grab a bite to eat at the, restaurant. Like we don't have to be golf. We don't have to be like whatever. Let's still wear our hoodies or our, but we could find a bit of a happier ground where we offer a better consumer product than just the low hanging free fruit that we do right now.
He's taking me forever to hit my unmute button there. Oh my goodness. We've previously had Gabe Robinson on the show, who designed and owned Project 15, which was used at this year's Canadian Championships. And he told us about something he called the postcard theory in his design philosophy, that when you're standing on a tee pad of a good hole, you should be able to take a picture that you could use as a postcard back to mom. On your travels. Do you have any guiding philosophies when you're designing courses? Are there things that you put into your courses that are a bit of a Ben Smith signature element?
Yeah, that's 2 trees too many. My friend Adam Barry actually coined a pretty good phrase. He said, it might not be the fairway, but it is the Ben way. But I have a concept that I've been working on for the last 4 or 5 years that I like to think of as the perfect 10. So the perfect 10 is basically that an excellent course, be it championship or not, however you want to call that language, but an excellent course should have 10 shots. And those 10 shots should essentially, there's a bunch of other stuff too. In the Simon video, I got to explain my math a little bit, and I can explain it more if you care to know. But the perfect 10 concept is that every amazing course should have a driver shot, a mid-range shot, a putter shot, a hyzer shot, a forehand shot. Then it should have a shot that you have to use the air and have to use the ground. Then there's these 2 other shots, which are like a forehand flex or a backhand ante. So you have these 9 unique lines that, in theory, if I have the skill set, and I can perform all these, and if I have a lesser skill set and I can't, well, then fine, I'm hammering my driver. But we're talking like the ideal player. And then that 10th thing, because that only gets us to 9, that 10th thing should have some point where, like Gabe was saying, you want to take a picture. You want to have a viewpoint that is gorgeous, that is like, you're like, oh my God, and yeah, I kind of like that postcard theory, but like you want to have at least one iconic point. It doesn't even have to be as a part of the whole. Maybe it's just a place that you walk by, or like a beautiful tree or a river or something. But like we can incorporate aesthetic beauty into our courses because they're so flexible and they offer themselves into so many different landscapes that we'd be kind of foolish to just blow by that. So the perfect 10 is kind of something that I think about on all my big courses. Now, on my lesser courses, not that they're lesser, I still try to contain those elements. But of course, if you're trying to stay at 300 feet or less, the really like driver mid-range kind of can go out the window if like Thomas Gilbert can throw a putter on everything. But you still want shapes. I'm really mathematical. So I have a formula that the easiest way to describe it is a backhand hyzer is +1. Forehand hyzer is -1. You want your course to come in at 0. Plus or -2 is fine over 18 holes. And then there's like little sub scorings that I have that really like got to see on a piece of paper, but smaller holes get subbed out into 0.5s or, different kind of like things in the shapes. And I never want to repeat the same shape. So you will very rarely find any course that I built after 2018 that has the exact same shape. It might be 30 feet difference, but you have to think about something if you're trying to get an ace or a perfect thing. And I also believe, this is one that I think people hate of mine, but I also believe that every 9 holes should have 1 hole that's not birdieable, or the birdie has to come from a 35-foot putt. So that when you get it, you're like, Sean, you got it. I got hole 4 today. Like, yeah, and like, exactly, because a par is a good score. And I'm not saying that par should be impossible. It should be very possible, but you should really have to earn the birdie or it's a throw in or something. I don't want that more than twice on an 18-hole course, but I totally think it's okay that on 9 holes that you have 1 hole that is really hard to get. If you also want to go in the inverse and say like ace or die, fine. Like I also think there can be 1 hole for every 9 that it's like, if I don't birdie this, I'm very sad at myself until I come through the next 9. So that kind of stays in line with the perfect 10.
So our third best co-host, Galen, who is not here tonight, thankfully, he's got a sibling out in Nova Scotia. And he's played a handful of courses out there, Hammond Pines and some city course in Dartmouth.
Yeah.
Yes, Plains. Thank you. Yes. What is it about Nova Scotia and the Maritimes that lend itself to just like amazing disc golf courses? Because there's some great ones out there.
Yeah, like we just don't have a lot of people. So, like land is not an issue. So really, if I'm being honest, like I go to some of these places and they're just like, look, we would love to invest in this. And I'll do some consultation. Like I've been asked to do consultation projects from as far away as like Europe, but, and they'll be really stymied by the amount of land that they have offered. So for us in the Maritimes, you don't have to go too far to find somebody with a 100-acre woodlot that's just like kind of sitting there. So if like you can find a funding model, there are a lot of cool ways to do it. So the Hammonds Plains course, like I was the original designer. I got that course in the ground. But the thing about that I thought was magic is not building of that course. It was the building of that community, because I pitched to city council. Everybody said yes, but then one city councilor reached out to me and he's like, hey, I got somebody I think that this could work. And a man by the name of Vernon Kynock, who is from Hammonds Plains, had personal property. And like I went down and I was like, hey, Vernon, like this might be a good way to use your land. And like the first time we saw it, he was like, I don't know, man, this is weird. Like you're weird. This is weird. And I was like, totally. I'm not going to deny that. So I let him simmer on it for a little while. And then we met back again in 6 months. And he was like, all right, like if you say like the community will use it and people will use it, like, let's try it. And so Hammonds Plains, same thing. Like we did it, the first one on a $6,000 grant, and I gave them 10 baskets. And, back then baskets were probably like $520 or something like that. So like maybe I'm making $800. That course literally almost killed me. I had a horrendous chainsaw accident at 5:30 in the morning. Anyways, and fine, I survived. We're good. I'm past it now. But, but then the birthing of that community. So just like getting it into conception and then the birthing of that community. That is one of the all-time greatest clubs going. Like dozens of people put in so many hours. They've drug out turf tee pads, all fully sanded. They've like made all sorts of like, there's a green layout, a blue layout, a red layout. And then like the valley is just kind of littered now with cool courses and parks or like municipality places that were not being used. And like now Wentworth, I'm super excited to have people come and see it because that is just a forest. Look, I've bid on or pitched to well over 100, and like I've been to well over 140 pieces of land now, and like walked them and submitted some kind of design, and like 64 of them have been picked up. But Wentworth, I've never had anything even close to that. Like that property is ridiculous. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And Kings Pine, Rose Valley, Hillcrest, Glen Allendale, Huckett, like all the PEI courses that I just named are all on these beautiful forests that were not being
incredible course.
It's incredible because the farming is the high volume or value stuff, and then and then because I think I'm not trying to crap on any place in Canada, but we did not have the baggage come with it with disc golf here, so it was like a real untrodden path, and people were like, okay, so they didn't associate it with like a hippie game, or they didn't associate it with like any kind of bad anything. It's just like, you're telling me 150 people a week are going to use this if we build it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And like, what else gives you value like that from municipality? So I don't think we have got a lot of bad press in Atlantic Canada about disc golf in any capacity. So I think it's all been positive. So it has been slow going, but like, I would say that once every 2 weeks, I get an email from somebody looking to build a course or to be consulted on building a course or wanting to take the next steps on like, if I were going to build a course, what would I do? So, my data that I can kind of extrapolate based on like things that I read around the world. Again, I'm really, really data driven. Like we will double here in the next 5 years. And I don't think we'll still reach market saturation. So like as best I can do, and this data is harder to come across. But we do surveys. We've done surveys every year. In the hotbeds of disc golf in Atlantic Canada, only 20% of the general population could carry on a conversation about disc golf. In most places, it's under 5%.
It's that high?
That's why I said in the hotbeds. And that would have to be PEI surrounded by 4 courses that are world class, that have held 5 nationals, that are in a school system with like prevalence on TV and radio. And that would still only be 1 in every 5 people could even carry on a conversation. So most places it's around 5 to 8%, which means 92 to 95% of people still don't know it exists. And like, I would say my biggest / funniest frustration is like, all right, guys, I played hockey with you for 40 years. Just come and try the game for the love of God. Like, what do I got to do? I mean, but these people that I know that would love it, just like still haven't tried it. So, and I don't, if I knew how to do that. But so the reason why I think we have such good courses is A, we have a lot of people that care. B, have a lot of people that still know how to run a chainsaw or like don't mind pulling brush. Like we're still a pretty blue collar area of the world. And so like it is pretty common to do the work yourself. And like every course that is done well has that, I always call them the champions. Like they have their course champion. That person might not be good at disc golf, but they love their course and they do everything in their power to make sure that the brush is clean and the turf is clear and the whatever. And so I think we just have a high percentage of people that punch way above their weight that want to see their course be awesome. And so we've got some awesome courses.
I will say, as an outsider to the Maritimes coming from Ontario, it doesn't take very long to get hooked in by the atmosphere of being in the sport out in the Maritimes. As somebody that's only been out there once, sadly only once, but it was 2022 Nationals in PEI. I was there for like half an hour before I was like, I never want to leave this place ever again. And by the time I was there for a full week, I was crying in the airport saying, please don't make me fly back to Toronto right now. I don't want to leave. So there is definitely something magical in the air out there. And I can't wait back. I will be back next year for the Dieppe Open in New Brunswick. So looking forward to being back out east again. But so In one of Simon's most recent videos that you were featured in, you talk about lines for pros versus AMs, MPO versus FPO, and so on. When you don't have the benefit of creating a course with multiple tees and basket locations, how do you balance the desire to give pros a challenge and make your course approachable for amateurs as well?
Okay, so one of the really cool things that I've done a lot, and like I hope you guys are at this point too. When you go to a new course and you want to play that course for the first time and you throw hole one, the very first thing you should do when you get to that basket is stand at that basket and turn around and look at the hole backwards. And if you're not in the practice of doing that, I strongly suggest trying that. Because what you will see is you will see the course in a whole different way, where the landing zones are, where the spots are that you could take a much easier, less risky shot and be rewarded with maybe a long chance at birdie or a long chance at, or an easier chance at par. But that's not straight for the basket. So one of the things that I like to think about is like the concept of par, which I could give a crap less about what we score our courses and yada, yada, yada. But the concept of par that I do like is if the average player took average shots, where would their score kind of be? And so what I want to try to do is I want to make shots that are fun for each person. When I design a course, I have 3 prototypes in my head. And like sometimes they're like individual people and like I can think of like them throwing, but I like to think of these 3 prototype people. So one person's only got a hyzer, it only goes about 200. How does that person still have a good time? Can they clear all the hard obstacles that they have to clear? Like, because I remember designing a course once for a tournament and I was talking with a group of FA1s and I said something about like my favorite hole, which was like an island, a water carry, like a fake water carry. And they're like, well, there's no point in us doing it because none of us can make it. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, it's too far. We all have to lay up. So no one has an experience here that is positive because it's layup, best case par. And I thought, oh, wow. And I will say this, like, I'm not that I'm like apologizing for being a man, but I'm just saying that like, I didn't think about all of the people that were using my courses until a long time into the game. And I apologize for that, but I feel like I've corrected that now. And I feel like I'm trying to understand that. So one of the things is a better player should be able to take a riskier line that is going to give them a higher reward. So in terms of if it's an ace run or if it's a par 4, where does the birdie have to come from? Like, so that line can be designed first, the kind of high risk line. Okay. Oh, look at that. Like if I split that gap at that 300 mark, like I'll really get something like very cool. But then you have to remember that there are other people that are going to be playing that same layout. And as you said, maybe with only one tee pad, they need to be able to find a way to navigate their 200-foot backhand to a safe spot, and then hit a 25-footer. And like, I mean, there's lots of things that, if you were really my friend and we were really, having a good time, I would say, Robbie, just be better, like suck it up and be better. But that's like just not a real thing. I'm only, really joking about that. But like for some people, there's your skill set, but they still want to have a good time. And I want to provide them that. So now I start to look at sublines that allow for landing zones, soft landing zones, and what you would call high frequency success rate. So where can I throw this that it's going to most likely end up in a good spot and most likely again? Now, I wasn't joking when I said the 2 trees too many, because I actually fully will lean into the fact that like you will stand on some of my holes and be like, really? Like, what are you thinking? But don't look at the basket. Look at the sublines that you can throw to, and you might not take a straight line to get to the obstacle, but you will find ways. And I always feel that if you spend enough time with my courses, you will find things like that. And then I also really just try to make it like aesthetically pleasing, and so that it is really beautiful, so that when those players are out there, like, okay, maybe they're not going to get the birdie or they're going to struggle for a par on 1 or 2 of the holes, but it is still really pleasurable to play. And those high frequency or high potential places, I really want to clean those. So like, I don't want you to lose your disc in one of those like places that I'm asking you to throw. So if it means I clear out a wider landing zone or like a further off into the bush, so that like, I think the most unpleasurable thing is like thinking your disc is within a 3 meter area and then not finding it. I just don't think anybody likes that. So as long as you make lines that are like fair and repeatable, then I'm not asking everybody, somebody with an 8-10 skill set, I'm not asking them to be able to shoot under par. I think like, hey, maybe like par is your best score on here and you're going to have a good time still. And then the other thing is like, I would love to better define the language behind what course classifications are. I've been just calling them like 4 levels of course, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 being like the most prolific championship course, which like less than 1% of the courses should be out there. But anything that's like a level 2 or 3, it is really meant so that the average player can play it and have a good time, but it's clean and it's easy to navigate and there are some amenities. And then if those are things happen, then I think it's generally going to be fun.
Let's talk about your brand new course, Wentworth Ski Area. Where would you put it on your 4-point scale?
Oh, it's a 4 for sure. It's the best course. I mean, we're going to take a run for best course in Canada when I'm done. So like that's without a question.
So let's talk about it. So this is a course that you designed.
It's 2.
It's been blowing up on Simon's channel as well. Simon, i.e. Simon Lizotte, famed Canadian, of course. So how did that come about? Tell us about the property. Do you like designing courses at a ski area? Tell us about the course a little bit.
Okay, so first off, it's 2 distinct courses. So there's 45 holes on the course, or 45 holes on the property. There's a 3-hole warm-up. So the 3 holes are independent of the 2 courses. And for right now, I'm just calling the courses Wentworth Red and Wentworth Blue. So eventually I'll give them their own names, but for right now, they're 2 distinct courses. So if you play Red, Robbie, and you play Blue, Sean, we are not going to see each other. We tee off from 2 totally different places. We play up and around the mountain and down, and we will see each other at the bottom. The red course is 24 unique holes. You start at the bottom, you work your way to the top. If you don't want to do the walk, you can take a chairlift up and just play an 18-hole red course. Yep, totally. Fully expected. Fully expected. There is the blue course, which
it's like you've read our show notes. That question is in the show notes.
Okay, well, there you go. It is not my first rodeo, and I realize that I'm an anomaly. I love to walk. I walk that mountain 3 times a week. Sometimes I walk it 3 times a day, but I've got problems. Most people want to take a consumable product and they want to take and be leisurely and have a good time. So like, so there's a lot of corrections that I had to make on that because of what I thought was fun and what is fun varied ever so much. The owners of the mountain. So I proposed something of that mountain, maybe as far back as like 2013. And for a variety of reasons, it just like didn't happen. Skiing is getting tougher. Although this has been a good year, last year has been a good year. It's just like weather and all the things. So eventually the ownership of the mountain, the father who's like the patriarch there, when he passed, I think the kids understood, and the kids are like in their 50s, like they're adults with, they're very smart, very savvy, good people. They understood that, look, if we want to keep this mountain alive, we're going to have to think outside of just like 10 weeks of skiing. And they had some really cool staff on site already, people that were heavily involved with bikes, downhill mountain biking. So over years, they started building some really cool mountain bike runs. And about 3 years ago, they really like took the plunge with it. So a couple of years ago in 2024, through a variety of a series of events, our tour championship date at a golf course was going to be moved. New ownership took over the golf course. They wanted to keep it open another week. It was kind of going to put a damper on us. So it was kind of like we have some options. Like we could hold this tour championship anyways. So my friend Scott said, why don't we approach the mountain again? And I said, okay, see it. Worst they can say is no. We went, they said, yeah, let's try it. So we did a temporary course. I built a 30-hole layout that just like, it took us 25 holes to get to the top and then just 5 bombers going down. And it was amazing. And people were like, they didn't even mind the walk getting up because it was just cool shots and like cool forest. We didn't cut a tree, didn't cut a limb. Our tee pads were just whatever was there. I found flattest, best spots we could. So I think we had 76 people play that temp pop-up, and we kept it open for 2 weeks. And everybody that came, it was like 4.5s and above for ratings. People were just like, this is cool. The downhill was cool, like way harder than we thought, like all the things. And I'm, whatever. Looks aside, I'm a little smarter than I look, but I'm not so dumb to just go straight up and straight down. We cut across, like we tried to navigate the mountain in a way that like all 4 of us or all 3 of us would enjoy walking on, and it wasn't so bad. So the reviews were really, really good. People thought it was a good thing, and ownership was like really keen to it. And they were kind of surprised to hear how positive disc golf took. And so I always thought that like it would be 2 or 3 years down the road they might go for it, but they kind of came back. We wrapped up in November, and they came back I think on like a early January meeting, and they said let's meet again. Let's kind of do a debrief. So we did a bit of a debrief, and they said, what if we wanted to go forward with it right now? And it's like, absolutely. So we really took our time, and I really parsed out like, okay, if we're going to do this, how do we do it right? And the thing that they said to me was, listen, when we finish this, we want to be the best course in Nova Scotia. But when somebody else comes along who wants to try to outdo us, we still want to be the best course in Nova Scotia. So how do we fund this and create this to be that? So then the kind of light bulbs went off of like, okay, all right, what are we doing? How do we do this properly? So I was really happy with myself because I made a really long and intricate plan about the type of machinery that I would bring in and the way that I would do the work. And so I've been working my way through companies, forestry companies, and I've been working my way through other contractors, and I've taught myself how to drive a lot of machines. So I had a pretty good idea of what this could be. So when I submitted them a budget, it took us about 5 months of negotiation to kind of get back and forth on that. But when they finally did, it was like, if we're going to do it, we're doing it all the way. So I knew that I could design a really good course. As you said, hover around a 950 rated player. I think I can design a 970, 980 rated course. Like, I think I understand that. But I knew if I wanted to get to a real 1,000 rated, to like really get over the hump of like what is theoretically hard and theoretically fun to what is actually hard and actually fun, I knew I needed help. So I called some people from those first nationals, and I asked Paige Pierce and Simon Lizotte, hey, are you guys interested? And they both said yes. And so Paige and I did one day there. We did a couple days in PEI, and we looked at another project, which sadly I wasn't fortunate enough to win. That's okay. That happens. But Simon and I obviously spent the 5 days there, and we dismantled the blue course, and we made a gold layout for that course. And a lot of the holes, he was like, yep, you're on the right path. This is correct. Don't touch it. Then a lot of holes, he was like, hey, why don't we shorten it? Make it a par 4 instead of a 5. Why don't we tweak this? Or like, yep, that gap is great, but like push the basket even further. And so, just having that insight of like what you can do. And then the other part though too was Joey Tamale was there, Dustin Wolf was there. So like a lot of disc golf royalty kind of in one room. On day 1, they're like, no, not possible. Like just not, it's too much. On day 2, they're like, okay, the walk wasn't as bad. By day 3, they're like, this is not even a problem at all. Make a switch back here, like put a little staircase there. Bob's your uncle. So like even just them understanding that the walk wasn't that bad. And the other thing that you have to understand is that I built this entire course with one other helper for half the year in 6 months. So that's 2 courses, 45 holes in 6 months. I logged 1,428 hours on the course this year. I drove, several machines myself. And then I brought in forestry equipment with a really sustainable forestry company. We took off 70 cords of wood. We made benches, stairs. Out of a lot of that, we bucked up 30 cord of hardwood for firewood. And then we buried and mulched a bunch of the other stuff on site. We made some drainage. We cleaned up some glades for the snow, for the skiers. And we saved a whole bunch of trees, transplanted some in some cases. And then every cut that we did it under the auspice of like, what can the forest handle? And what will leave the most optimal forest in the next 5, 10, 50, and 100 years? Obviously, 50 and 100 is harder to predict, but like there is no cut in there that opened up so much sunlight that there's not still some shade covering in the sky. And then we had a really rough go this year. Obviously, Nova Scotia had its first ever forestry ban. We had a huge forest fire and we didn't get rain. I think the last significant day of rainfall, if I remember correctly, was something like May 29th or May 30th. And then we didn't get rain again until October. And so we had to restrict ourselves willingly for 2 weeks in the summer. And then we had to do like a whole modified thing. So like, not only was it just like a 1-year build, it was like a 1-year build with crazy restrictions towards the end. And so, but in the end, like that course ends up being the most technical and the most proficient use of 18 holes I've ever had. The first 5 go up the hill. There is 10 holes or 9 holes that go around the plateau. And then there's 4 holes that bomb down the mountain. And I would say that starting around hole 15, 16, 17, those become probably 4 of the funnest holes that you'll ever throw. And I would say the stretch from hole 5 to hole 12, actually really hole 13 too, is some of the most unique disc golf in Canada. Each one of the holes is so classic in its own right to either be most aesthetically pleasing with these very beautiful shot shapes, or the par 5s are just like, they're impeccable. They are perfect. And if you throw pure lines, you'll shoot 5 under and you'll 6 under and you'll be like, okay, that really wasn't that bad. But if you miss your line by a foot, you could theoretically kick off one of the uphill holes and end up backwards. If you miss one of the downhill holes and you get an air bounce or you just throw it fluffy, you can miss a 500-foot fairway by 600 feet. And so you could take 25 over and not feel like you really, really shot that bad because you're only a foot or 2 away. And so like, so I'm really, really pleased with that. Now, the things that have to be improved upon, obviously the walk up, and I'll make some switchbacks. I've already made a staircase and things like that. And so then there's a few other like logistics, which like, again, now seeing Simon and seeing a few other people, I'm like, okay, this is cool. But this is where when it's funded properly, like the 18 holes are amazing. The 45 holes are amazing. But like getting from point A to point B, that's where like a funding model comes in that like, I don't necessarily ask for in my early days. Cause I'm like, I don't care. I just need these 18 holes. But the reality is like all 3 of us still have to walk around. And if I haven't budgeted in like a nice walking trail or a staircase or a rope or a bench, then like we're all going to pay for it because it's not going to be as pleasurable. And, if I'm gassed by the time I get to hole 5, that's not really good for anybody. So for our event, we had a cool little budget and we did some stuff. And I was like, oh, we'll get some like healthy snacks. But my co-TD was smart enough that she just bought $500 worth of Halloween candy and put it at the steepest part of the hill. And when people finished the steep walk, they sat down and gorged themselves on candy and no one complained. So she understands people. Yeah.
Very smart move, indeed.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how does the course integrate with the ski area itself? Is there much overlap between what is turned into the disc golf course and what previously was, different runs down the hill, and how do you go about sort of just incorporating what is already there and utilizing that to your benefit when designing a course?
So yeah, and Sean had mentioned like, how do I feel about designing with ski? So I think 5 of my last 8 projects have been on ski hills, either cross country or downhill. And the way I look at it, the last project I just did in Gander was on a cross country ski trail. And the way I look at it is when I parked my truck, the Gander course already had done $500,000 of work, because all of those ski trails are already fairways to the size that we want them. The clubhouse chalet, that's already a $250,000 building with bathrooms and a kitchen and water, And so the ski hill is the same thing. The infrastructure that they already had sets us off. We are $1 million up already. So I think when they pull the plug, because we have to pull out baskets that are going to be in conflict with any downhill skiing, if I remember correctly, I only had to pull 7 baskets. Now, I've heard that they might have pulled 2 more just out of safety. So let's say 9 of the 45 baskets were pulled for the ski season, but all the rest of the other 36 were stayed in. So I'm like, I don't know what I am, but I have enough foresight to understand that like a basket in the center of a field isn't always our favorite basket position anyway. So I'm trying to find like nooks and crannies, side hills, guarded trees, things like that. So no skier is going to take a direct line at those, but I want to use those open spaces as much as I can. So the red course, which is shorter, 24 holes, mostly around 300 to 330, 220, like in that range, they cut across side to side, not too many things straight up. The walk on that one does suck to go up, but, so I shortened those a lot. But in all those cases, the baskets are tucked. They're hidden. So yes, you're going to fly over 250 feet of open space, but to navigate that last 50, you're going to have to shape it in a tree or like make a nice little shot. And also with a ski hill or like any course, I don't want to have the same terrain over and over and over again. So as many times as I could, we duck into the woods, out of the woods, into the woods, out of the woods. And so I'm thinking about my basket placements from 2 things. 1, where they're going to be safe. And 2, where could a high volume of traffic, foot traffic especially, not interrupt water patterns or like compact soil in a really meaningful way. So like I want them in high levels of organic places where there's a lot of rock and a lot of places that are kind of like hidden anyways. So for the most part, I try to use as much of the infrastructure from the ski hill as possible with causing the least amount of interruption to the bread and butter of that place, which is a ski course or a ski facility.
So I love the idea of a chairlift accessed disc golf course. I can only think of one other one in Canada at Sun Peaks in BC, which is just a little 9-hole kind of crap one.
Grouse
yeah. Oh, Grouse has one as well. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's great that they will run the chairlift, basically year round.
Yeah. So
was that something that they were doing already?
Well, they run it on weekends for the bike club. And so the mountain bike accessible has, and so then during peak summer, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday that they run it. And so they want people using that chair. So that's part of the reason why I designed the 18. We also have like the purple layout, which is like all the top holes. So you can play the red and the blue at the top, which ends up being 19 holes just at the top. And if you want to take the chair back down, you can, or play down. And so this year we're going to run 4 events there called the Summit Series. And your tee time is what chair you get on. So if your tee time is 10:03, you got to get on the 10:03 chair. And that takes you up the mountain. And then when you offload, you start your round from there. So that way, people will like my tee time might be 11:15, and that's what chair I'm expected to be on. And if you miss your chair, it's your stroked penalty, just like all PDGA. So, but this will encourage people to take the chair to like also enjoy the aesthetic, of getting up and then getting around the mountain, being at the top, take a small snack, and then play your bomber holes down.
In Simon's, I think it was the second video, it's titled World's Course.
I mean, that's the goal.
Exclamation point, question mark.
That's
so presumably that's the goal.
That's the goal, 100%, without question.
What kind of timeline are you thinking about for putting in a world's bid, and what are the steps that you need to do to lead up to that?
So there's a whole list of stuff. And if you did want to talk till 2 a.m, we can go through it. The reality is the goal would be 31 to 35. So 7 years. So I would love to submit my bid in 4 years from right now. So as I alluded to before, there's some work that has to be done between the PSOs and the NSO. And that work, I will kind of guide my desire, which I know I'm just one person in Canada, and I know there's other people that have things that they would like to see done too. So no problems there. But there is some partnership stuff. So today, before we were on a call today, one of the things that I'm working on is a stated goal of next year, bringing 250 high school students to the course, 10 schools represented, subsidizing the travel of those schools and getting them the chairlift for free. So fundraising of probably around $5,000 to $7,000 to see a high school event that goes perpetually once a year for the next 7 years. So that group of kids represents at least 10 to 15% of the people who are going to watch said worlds. You know what I mean? So we are trying to birth these players to care about it from like the start and get the schools there. So that's like one part. Sport tourism is another part, which I've done some work with before, done a lot of work in PEI. The Nova Scotia government's on board. We've had a couple meetings already. You know, again, looking at signature events for the province with ceilings that are 6 figures and above. And so, like, how does that happen? As much as like some of the internet thinks that a ski hill is not great for reception, we actually have a tower at the top of that mountain. Like, it is peak for reception. We're killing it there. We have media capabilities. Parking is going to be an issue. Lodging is going to be an issue. So both of those are being addressed internally by Ski Wentworth, the organization themselves. Luke, who was a former TD of mine, like on some of our nationals, who's doing DEP next year and is more than capable. It looks like
Luke Richard.
Yeah, Luke Richard. It looks like Wentworth will host one of the flex starts for his Canadian nationals. So we will, do like a Monday or Tuesday, and encourage people to come up and like get a, taste for it. I know that doesn't like make us a nationals course, but it kind of again helps put the spotlight, helps the Ski Wentworth see like, okay, this is what travel players look like. This is what they might expect. And then so we have a short list of things to do in the next 3 years. So this year is like, get the gold course. Looking at my calendar right now, we are aiming to have Simon back between the 19th and the 25th of July for the official grand opening of the course, gold course included. So that is kind of like, that's our target goal. So and I want to do aesthetically pleasing things, stonework on all the holes, landscape, landing zones that are like marked and appropriate, and on the side hills and the switchbacks and like all the small things that be required. So step 1 is get the course all finished. Step 2 is to get partnerships in place with corporate sponsors, and I'm going to go to Finland this year. I'm going to study from some of the European designers and the guys and the people that did Worlds last year. And I will go to a bunch of their courses. If I have time, capacity, and money, I will probably go to Sweden and Norway too, and look at some of the growth that's happened there. And then we will look at a 2-year plan of funding models. And then in 2 years from now, hosting an A tier again. That is something. I don't know if it'll be whatever. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be an A tier that is like, okay, if we have competition at 1,000 rated players and above, where do the trouble spots come from? And so ideally, I would love to have a bid submitted in partnership with the province of Nova Scotia, the PSO for disc golf in a province, and Ski Wentworth within 3 years of right now. Theoretically, if we lost the first one, great, then like bid in 4 years. So I think Worlds has been announced, if I'm correct, until 2030, if I think so. I'm looking at 2032, 2033 would be like kind of the dream dates for us to host the Worlds. And like I don't know, I can't tell if it's I whatever. I don't know. I could be my ego. I'm really not sure, but like it's kind of the last thing that I want to do. It's the thing that I want to like prove that going back to you asked me a question, why does like the Maritimes like excel at this? Like, one of the things that I think people might not understand from the outside, we don't have anything here that is built just for us. We don't have a pro sports team. We don't have the world's best, art scene. We don't have like the whatever of Canada, like, and we certainly don't love when people from Ontario come here and are like, well, back in Ontario, and you're kind of like, in BC, you're like, well, but there's no reason why we can't have the best disc golf. You're not going to get better than Estonia or better than Finland or better than, some of John's courses, but you can get just as equal. And there's no reason why we can't build a product for Atlantic Canadians by Atlantic Canadians that showcase like all of the amazing things. So, if we don't get Worlds and like it doesn't happen, I would still love to get something that's big and like beautiful and does justice to the place. But like I finally feel that after 64 projects and like being around this for 20 some years and 35 years in the landscape, I like kind of feel like I know what I'm doing for the first time in my life. And I really just want to see a project all the way to the end. I want to like take every board that I cut in the next couple of years and like build intentional spectating areas. I want to take those boards and I want to build the places where the camera's got to stand to catch the optimal flight paths in the woods. And like, I want to do all of the things that I have seen and accumulated from like guys like Ian Anderson from Central Coast, who is like, takes so much time after a nationals and is like, hey, if we had this, this, and this, we'd be that much better. And you're like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And like, I want to do that all the way through. So I just met with the ownership last week. I said, look, give me another year, put me on a year-to-year contract, allow me to just perfect this course. Let me pour all I got into it to make each hole like a masterpiece, and let me keep it up to the way that I want to see it done. And let's try to make it a destination. So we'll never have a huge population density here. Like we're not New York City, we're not Toronto, and like, there is some really like great things. One of the things that Simon was saying is that like he wishes that there was more crappy disc golf courses in major urban centers because he thinks more people would come watch the Pro Tour. And I don't disagree with that. And so like when it comes to like Pro Tour stops, like I can see why like Nashville and like, you name it, like these like bigger cities that might not like catch your brain right off the bat as like disc golf hotspots might be beneficial. But I think for Worlds, I think Finland, obviously huge population density there too. But I think if you build a product that is so good, it can't be denied, then I think you can be really, really successful. And I hope that if we were able and lucky enough in 7 years to do it, that a lot of people in Canada would feel just like you, Robbie. They'd want to come back out here. They'd want to like take part in the maritime hospitality. I know, Sean, we've been together on a few different courses at a few different times in Canada. And like, I just think that it is the right place. We have the right demeanor. And I just really, really want to show it off. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Well, geez, I mean, I am thoroughly fired up right now hearing everything that I've seen from you, and then now having had this almost hour and a half conversation with you, your energy and passion for everything that you do, Ben, it just radiates through everything that you do. I got lost in a trance there for a second, just listening to you go on. And I will certainly say that the first tournament, especially if there's an A tier at this course, I will certainly be part of the Ontario contingent that makes its way out there. And hopefully I will see you at the Dieppe Open next year as well, because I'm pretty sure I will for sure be out east for that. So so hopefully I'll get a run in with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Ben, as I mentioned, Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I felt really bad. The last few years, I've missed Canadian Nationals because I've been building, and it's been like, I've really missed it. It's been a void in my life to like not get to see a lot of the people that like were so kind to us to come here. And it wasn't for lack of trying. It was just like literally kind of not life or death, but it was just like, I'm engaged in some of these courses, and it was just like I could not. And so I'm really trying hard to get back to spend time. So anyway, yeah, thank you.
Well, the sport is better off with you in it. And as like I said, I was out in nationals in 2022 out in PEI, and I didn't at the time. I wasn't lucky enough to introduce myself and meet you then. But I will always remember the barefoot beauty walking around the course while I was out there will always be stuck in my brain. So it's a pleasure to actually finally get to meet you and have a conversation, and like I said, hopefully get to meet you in person out at Dieppe. But Ben, we have had you here for quite a while. To no shock to anybody that knows you or has seen content with you, you do love the talk, and we love the talk here too. So no surprise, but we've had you for a while. But before we let you officially go, we'd like to hit you with a few lightning round questions that we asked all of our new guests. Just quick answers, whatever comes to mind first. And we've got a couple special ones that were added here from, unfortunately, Galen, who couldn't be here, but a couple special ones for you. And the first one, shawarma or donair?
Oh, I might lose my like. Donair comes
maritime status.
Donair comes at a very particular point in your life. You know, that's usually 3 a.m. And well deep into a good time. So if I'm going to say like every day or like I'm going to probably go shawarma, which I know I might lose my Nova Scotia, you know, but I'm a big shawarma fan. I just really like shawarma.
It's bold. It's bold.
It's bold. It's bold.
What is the highest single hand of cribbage score you've had?
I mean, I've had so many 24s, 25s, 26s. I used to play online, and I had 229s in online, but I don't feel like that counts because I feel like there's like a weird algorithm thing that happens there. So, but I've had plenty of, you know, plenty of 25, 20, you know, 24 is pretty good. But yeah, a lot of crib in my life.
In Ontario here, we have Tracy Boards, the Crokinole board maker, as a tournament sponsor for disc golf. You need to get a local cribbage sponsor for Worlds.
Yeah, I'm going to show you something that's like kind of weird, but it's not that weird. Dustin and Zoe gave me this belt, which is a crib board. Right? So if you like get stuck in a long backup, so I carry a deck of cards in the bag, and then the belt.
Ben's taking off his belt again. Look out!
Well, I mean, we're talking crib, so it got serious, you know. Yeah. But yeah, that is definitely something. A couple of years ago, nationals, we made crib boards for the trophies. So
I remember.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So I got a real easy softball for you on the next one. Okay. What's your favorite course?
Oh yeah. That's like, I mean, that's an impossible situation. The things like what place did it come in your life? Wanda Fuca, that used to exist on Vancouver Island, was like a really cool, you know, for me, that was like early in my disc golf career. It's no longer a course anymore, but it was like really central to kind of like, you know, me as like a person and like kind of finding it. I mean, like, it's like impossible to not say positive things about Hillcrest. Like, it's like Hillcrest is a perfect course. I've told John that himself. All 18 holes like stand up. There's a couple little weird power anomalies that I would like quabble with, but like, who cares? the shots and the ambition to that course. Sackville, Rose Valley, Kings Pine, like those three will always go down as like places in my heart that like occupy something that just like will never ever leave. And man, that early Kings Pine, like those 5 weeks that it was open, it was so perfect.
Amazing.
It was so perfect. And it took me a long time to psychologically get over losing that course. So, so those courses kind of always got to get listed. And then, I mean, I think if I told you any other courses, it would be because like me and Duncan had a really good day there and I got to play it barefoot and the sun was shining and just like hung out. And so like I could tell you about a dozen of those courses, but I don't know if I would go back and play them if they really, Toronto Island, man. Toronto Island's incredible. Like, like everybody in Canada, at least one event on Toronto Island and like take that ferry over there. And like, that is Canadiana in its like purest form. And like Canmore, like playing Canmore early days, that was such a revelation to be like, what? Like people did this? Like, so these are all. And then, I would say that I like kind of cut my teeth on QE in Vancouver, which is like an okay little course, but like, man, I played that thing. I must have played that course 700 times. And like, if I lived close to there again, I would play it 700 more and not bat an eye at it. So, I guess those are the ones that come to mind.
Next question. What is the hardest course you've ever played?
Well, I played Northwood Black, so I mean, like, it pretty much doesn't get harder than that.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah, and I took a 7 on whatever that crazy ass hole was, and it was like the 7 best shots of my life. And, anyway, so that one's ridiculous. I always said that one, when I came home after that, I was like, the next 3 courses I build are going to suffer. And the next course that I built after Northwood was Whaleback in Newfoundland, which that finishing stretch on that course is the hardest finishing stretch I've ever made. And it is very demoralizing, but it is incredible. The front end of that course isn't like so hard that I would categorize it as like the hardest course I've ever played. But yeah, it's like pretty hard to get past Northwood. I would say that like I've played some other courses in the States that are just like distance prohibitive, that I don't, necessarily think makes it the hardest course. I just think there was this like weird thing back 10 to 20 years ago where we were just like, make it longer, and so I played some courses like outside of Pittsburgh, and I can't even think of the name, but like with some really cool layouts, 3 tee pads per holes. But when you get to like the gold or the farthest layout, it's just like, if you don't have 400, 450, like you're not going to make a birdie. And so, but Northwood is like crazy because it's like really specific to landing zones and you really have to hit those. And if you don't, then you're really struggling to get pars, and every par you get, you feel like you earned it. There's a handful of others. The Hillcrest Gold is like crazy tough too, but Hillcrest Gold, it was, I personally, and I've talked to some other people, but I personally don't find that layout as fun as I found Northwood Black. Not that that's like fun, but the shots, and it could be like more maturity, like that course is older and they've done, more work. There's a handful of others that like, I'll come across like a stretch of holes on some course where I'm just like, wow, these are so hard. And I take notes on them because I'm that kind of guy. And I'm like, oh, what did they do here? Like, all right, 420 to that corner. That's nuts. Like, okay. Or like that gap is only this big. So, there's like things like that. But yeah, it's pretty hard to argue with Northwood.
Yeah, not the first person to answer Northwood Black in our lightning round either. That is for people that have been fortunate enough to play it, definitely a popular answer to that question. Next one I got for you, Ben. One sport to play or watch other than disc golf. What are you choosing?
Oh, baseball, without a question. I mean, yeah, I
From something that you said at the start of this interview, I knew it was going to be baseball.
I still coach baseball, and I have for 20 some years. I'm just like addicted to the game. It's like when I'm working, if I can have a baseball game on the radio. So I probably listen to an absurd amount of baseball, like an absurd amount, that a number I probably don't even want to admit. But yeah, and I just think it's like one of those perfect games. The narrative, it kind of moves along at your own pace. There's a lot of thinking to it if you want, or just like watch the dude hit the ball. Like that's fun too, you know? So that would be my backup. I'm also Canadian though. So, you know, I'll watch a hockey game. I still, you know, follow along,
Right.
and I still have a soft spot for it. But the truth be told, I think like I'm just like a sports junkie in like kind of the best sense of the word. So, you know, you want to get ramped up about tennis, like, yeah, let's talk tennis. You want to like watch some, like, you name it. I think like seeing good athletes. So I kind of always used to have a theory, and I still do. I don't travel near as much, but like if I go to a city, I want to know what's the best thing to eat. Where can I see arts and culture, and who's playing live? And so if I can see a sports game or a live concert, I will go to those every night that I am in your city, because I think that stuff's cool.
What is a song that makes you instantly turn up the volume to max and sing along, or maybe a go-to karaoke track if you do that?
Ooh, that's a great question. Oh geez, look, I'm like a huge soft spot for I mean, there's like 25 Bob Dylan songs that came on. I'm all in. There are just like a lot of R&B songs too that you know, it's how about this though? I would say anytime I hear the Talking Heads, Life During Wartime, you know, you pretty much like, you can't put on a Talking Head song without me wanting to get that thing up as loud as I possibly can and just like rock along. But there is a lot of music out there that still really, really inspires me.
And I bet you are an awesome passenger on a road
Oh,
trip.
yeah.
I can just, I can feel it.
Yeah,
The vibes would never be low in that car.
that's right.
That is
Yeah.
100%.
I can be quiet too if we have to. Look, I spent a lot of time in silence, but yeah, I can certainly.
Yeah.
I'll shotgun for you pretty good.
I'm a pretty big carpool karaoke singer, so I'm with you on that vibe. And speaking of road trips, what's your favorite place to stop for food when you're out on a road trip?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't do fast food really. Just like I really haven't. And both my wife and I, you know, had been self-employed for so long. So like I wouldn't say I'm like a foodie, you know, insofar as like I'm not a food snob by any stretch of the imagination. But if I can find like a local burrito place, oh, I'm definitely like, I love me a good burrito. Any kind of like, not as like, just like good food. So like you got like a soul kitchen, or like you know, some kind of curry joint, like, oh man, Thai food, yeah,
Oh.
Indian food, let's go, you know, like, so I'm pretty down with all that. And I would go out of my way now to like find the local restaurant, like the local spot. So if it's 5 more minutes off the highway, like I'm gonna take that detour every time. I kind of feel sad at myself when I've like devolved down into like stopping at Tim Hortons or somewhere like that, you know. So much to my children's chagrin, I haven't eaten at a McDonald's in like almost 30 years, I think. So, which like is nothing. It's just like a dumb thing that I do. Like it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. But I just feel like if I was push come to shove and the only place that we could go, I would rather go to a grocery store and buy like sushi or stuff to make my own wraps, you know, kind of thing. Just like, and also I don't care enough about, like, I just don't like, I would just rather have like $50 worth of healthy snacks and like eat those all day than kind of stop and get something that doesn't make me feel good. Also, I do like that weird intermittent fasting. So I eat like granola and yogurt every morning for breakfast. And like the only thing that I give myself as like a luxury when I'm working is like a fat dinner, you know? So like I want to spend $40 on like the best thing that I can eat in your town, because I feel like it's the thing that I've like done physical labor all day for. So, you know, the city of Corner Brook like punches way above its weight. It's got like 4 or 5 like cool restaurants. like the best sushi I've ever eaten,
Mm.
and then like a Thai food place. So it's like I always think about because the last few years I spent like a month there, so it's like I look forward to that like big good dinner. But yeah, so if I like push come to shove, I would probably try to find a Thai place. If I could find a Thai or burritos, I feel like that's like my road trip stuff.
What is one movie that never gets old, no matter how many times you watch it?
I would say Good Will Hunting.
Yes,
Probably my all-time favorite.
absolutely. Yep, 100%. I'm with you there. One of my all-time, would probably be on my Mount Rushmore of movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Never gets old to me.
Same. Yep.
Such a classic. And the last one that I've got for you, Ben, the most important one of all, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Any superpower? Jeez.
Any superpower.
I mean, I think flying would be pretty cool. Like, design a pretty good course too if I could fly around, and see all the stuff I want to take down. I think that I've probably always been like, or like the infinite amount of wishes, teleportation, I don't know, kind of stuff like that. But probably if, push comes to shove, I think the ability to fly, I'd be pretty okay with that.
I'm seeing flying as an advantage to being a course designer and scouting out potential lines from a bird's eye view is really thinking outside the box. So I appreciate that answer.
Just on brand,
It's 100%, 100%. Somebody that knows you really well was expecting that answer before you even said it, because that's 100% on brand.
Ben,
Well, Ben, go ahead, Sean.
before we let you go, do you have any shout outs or any last words, final comments you would like to give? The floor is yours.
Look, as always, practicing gratitude has been like a huge change in my life. I just want to say thank you to you guys making the time, putting in time in Canadian, lexicon and disc golf and doing your thing. Like, I cannot say thank you enough to, places like Wentworth, all those courses that you asked that I built. That's somebody that hired me. And without those, I'm just like a weird dude, doing the thing. And so I always feel a huge amount of gratitude to all those people, because that's a leap of faith that everybody took to believe in me. Obviously, I'm here, but I'd not have made it anywhere near as far in my life in the disc golf world without Duncan. And he does all the behind the scenes stuff for me and motivates me a lot of the times when I'm maybe like down in the dumps or some thing didn't happen. And then I have a very great and supportive family. My kids are amazing. And they don't I don't even, at some juncture, I don't even know that they actually know what I do. They're just yeah, well, dad's gone to do that thing again for a month. And I've cherished my relationship with them and how we get to do stuff and when I am present, which is a lot in the winter and things like that. But just them accepting me too is okay, cool. And, my sons come to a bunch of builds with me. My daughters come to some, and yeah, they like the kind of weird atmosphere behind it. But I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the people in Canada that have supported me and come to my events and come to my courses and done the thing. And just as a thank you. That's it.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Gratitude is always the most important thing. And in that vein, thank you very much for joining us and telling us all about your disc golf journey, the courses that you're working on, the early days of maritime disc golf that basically you invented. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and hope to see you. Maybe, who knows, maybe you'll come on out to Ontario and we'll show you some new courses. But either way, I cannot wait to come out to play an A-tier at Wentworth or see you at Nationals next year.
Absolutely.
But until that time, we'll be right back on Miss Mando.
Welcome back to Missed Mando. Thank you once again so much to Ben for coming on and joining us. awesome conversation, an awesome dude. Like I was saying towards the end there, his energy and passion for everything that he does just radiates through him, and radiates into anybody that's talking to him. Because I was getting pretty pumped up listening to him talk at certain points of that interview. So thank you once again to Ben for coming on, and we'll definitely have him on again in the future as he continues to expand on that new project out at Wentworth Ski Hill, which hopefully I'll be able to get out and see at some point, because from what I saw in that video with Simon, it already looks incredible. But getting into some Ontario news, we've got a little bit of stuff to talk about for Ontario news. Shawnee G, I'll throw it over to you.
Toronto has a new winter disc golf course. This is course number 8, I think, in Toronto, including the winter courses. This has opened up in the beaches, so east end of Toronto, and in Woodbine Park, which is across the street from the year-round beaches course at Ashbridges Bay. If you've played in the east end of Toronto, you know it well. This is another course installed by Jeff and Kara of Chainlink Disc Golf, and it is a lot of fun. It's going to be open a little bit longer than just a straight winter course, probably from October to May each year. It's a pretty popular park in the summer for like festivals and stuff, so that probably isn't going to work too well. But, you know, October to May, that's a solid winter course. I think it really complements the existing beaches courses really well. It's got a nice mix of hole types. It's got some tunnels. It's got a little bit of elevation. It's got a little 290-foot mini bomber hole. I got an ace on it already, as I mentioned in the intro, so it's got the Sean stamp of approval. So definitely, if you are in Toronto, come by and check it out.
Jeez Louise, I'm having trouble with the unmute function in this episode. I need to get into Toronto and check this out. I haven't even been to the regular beaches course in a couple years. Haven't even been to Marilyn Bell in a while. Although I will be back fairly soon for reasons that we will talk about in just a second. It's always awesome to see more and more courses get added in Toronto. Jeff and Kara put a lot of work into getting these courses in a dense urban environment, which is huge for the growth of the game. Even they're not always 9-hole. Some of them are 6 and smaller courses. Still so good for being introduced to the game. So huge shout out to Jeff and Kara at Chainlink for all that they do. Shawnee G, let's throw it back over to you. We've got some registration stuff to talk about, some upcoming fairly soon, really exciting stuff that we always love here on Missed Mando, seeing some mayhem and also some more well-known tournaments that are starting to open up for the 2026 season already. Let's go over to you, Shawnee G. What's coming up on the registration scene?
I am so excited that the tournament registration scene is starting to pop off a little bit more. Some early season action, some in the spring starting to jump. Let's pop it off. But first, we got to start off with the big one. The Missed Mando Maryland Moonlight Mayhem5. This is the 5th installment of the Missed Mando Mayhem series, and now we are doing it in the dark. We're doing the Mayhem glowy style. I don't know how it's going to work, but we're going to figure it out. We're partnering with Glow Master himself, Dr. Glow, Dan Rice, the maestro of the Maryland Bell Glowy Disc Golf League, and it's going down on February 7th. It's I don't know how this is going to work. I haven't designed the course yet. I don't know how we're going to light it. Dan's got a lot of that stuff. We're going to figure it out. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be dark. It's going to be a lot of fun. What we're going to do is, same if you were at our beaches event, the Toronto Slush, which was a Mayhem series event last winter, what we did there was 1 round of no Mayhem rules, just play it how you play it. and then 2 rounds of full Mayhem rules for a total of 27 holes. It's not a long course, so it still won't take you super long, but it should be super ridiculous. You can register your team in advance, and I really, really, really appreciate when you do. You can do that on the event in UDisc. If you search for it, you'll find it. Or you can find the event on Disc Golf Scene and link to the UDisc event page from there. As always, it's $20 a person, so $40 a team. It's bring your own person doubles, as always, with proceeds after payouts going to the Toronto Daily Bread Food Bank. As always, we're going to have bring a food donation for a mulligan, and then you can also buy more mulligans. All the details are up on the Disc Golf Scene and the UDisc page, so definitely sign up. You do not want to miss this absolute shenanigans and nonsense. Far less shenanigan-y and nonsensy is the next event, the White Spruce Winter Thaw. This classic is back. March 28th and 29th. Registration opened last weekend by the time you're hearing it. And there's already 156 players signed up with 25 people on the waiting list. As of the recording that when we're doing this, which is Monday, there's still a lot of spots left in MA1, and MA2's got some spots, and so do the women's divisions. So if any of those sound interesting to you, be sure to sign up. It's going to be a blast. But if not, get on the wait list, because, I mean, none of all those other divisions are going to fill up, and you might get a spot. What were you saying, Rob?
Just a little live update on those numbers. It is now, as of 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, January 12th, it's sitting at 161 total players and 27 on the wait list. So continually expanding, no surprise for a popular tournament at a popular course.
Who knows what it's going to be in 3 days when this episode actually gets released. Good luck, and hopefully you're already signed up for it.
I am.
Yep, same here. I'm playing MP50. Why not? It's White Spruce.
It's the podcast pro. The podcast pro.
Sure, we'll go with that. It's double whites. I mean, 2 rounds of whites.
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Who cares? I'm just donating my money to one of the other divisions or one of the other players. It's fine. It's fine. Also fine. There are 2 bring your own partner doubles events going down at the Eddyville Super Spin course. The first is going down on January 17th, and registration for that one is open now. They're doing 3 rounds of 10 holes on a, quote, evil, unquote, layout. So that's going to be fun. Evil layout at Super Spin. I mean, that's going to be a blast. And then the second event is happening on February 7th, and registration for that one opens on January 20th. If you are in Eastern Ontario, definitely find a partner and jump on that. That's going to be a blast. Speaking of going to be a blast, St. Joseph's Island is hosting the Algoma Ice Bowl up at Mountain View, February 14th. Registration is open now. Get in on that. I mean, what says winter disc golf like up in the Sioux area? It's going to be wintry. It's going to be an ice bowl. No wimps, no whiners. Have a blast.
To get Corey to send us a photo of the snow level in her driveway that we can insert right as you're talking about this, because she lives right around the corner from the course. So I think it'd be a good comparison as to what the course level is like.
Yep, a bunch of people have already signed up, and so if you are in that area, be sure to play that. That would be a blast. And speaking of ice bowls, we got another one. The 2026 Guelph Ice Bowl is going down at Eastview on February 28th. Registration is currently open, and there are still lots of space left for that. But I think the big one, other than the Miss Mando Maryland Moonlight Mayhem 5, is the Explore Waterloo Region Foxwood Open, driven by Innova. This is a big one, everybody. This is a big one. You know it. It's Foxwood. It's going down, as always, on Victoria Day weekend, May 16th to 18th. Registration opens January 21st. It will sell out. It always sells out. It's going to sell out. There's no advanced sign up. There's no sponsor a whole thing. It's just get in when the getting's good, and the getting's good starts on January 21st. And lastly, this is an Ontario major on the 2026 ODSA tour. So take it down, get your ticket for provincials. And that's it for this week. But there's going to be a bunch of new registrations opening in the next episode. So be sure to get on Disc Golf Scene and follow the tournaments, and make sure you do not miss a notification sign up.
It's somewhere for those watching on YouTube. Just as Sean's talking about Foxwood, I just had to point out we got a little MA1 first place trophy sitting right there.
That's a ball
right there on my trophy cabinet. It is. It is. Now, unfortunately, the other 2 years that I've played the Foxwood Open, I have come hilariously not close to winning a trophy. But one year. I got it done, and I mean, the coolest disc golf win for me, for sure. My only A-tier win, and at a really awesome tournament. It always blows my mind how popular that tournament is every year, and keeps getting better and better. So yeah, be on the lookout for that and all upcoming registrations, and we will make sure, as we always do, to keep everybody updated on registrations coming up in Ontario, so everybody is locked and loaded for all these great tournaments that we have across the province. Moving on now to some more broad disc golf news, and more specifically on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And the DGPT has announced a major new sponsor, the Powerball Lottery. You could have given me 1,000 years and I would not have guessed this new sponsorship. It was being teased a little bit in the disc golf world. I think it's either Ian Anderson or Terry Miller had made a comment on a Reddit post, I think it was, talking about a big new sponsor announcement that was going to be coming up. And I think this answers what that is for sure. They will be renaming some things on the tour on their behalf. There will now be the Powerball World Standings, the Powerball Playoffs, and the Tour Championship is now the Powerball Cup, which I will say does sound pretty cool. The Powerball Cup, for some reason, makes me think of like some tournament that would be in a Pokemon game. Powerball and Pokeball, I guess, in my head, just are a little too close, but I do like that name. And each U.S. Pro Tour stop will have a spectator ace run for $5,000, which is also a CTP for $500. And if no aces, $1,000 rolls over to the next event. And if that Powerball ace run doesn't get hit all season, it will be worth like $18,000 when it arrives at MVP, and then Sean will hit it because he is the new ace run master, obviously. But Shawnee G, let's throw it over to you and hear some of your thoughts on this new sponsorship news.
I mean, that's huge. I've since learned that like Powerball, I think they sponsor like NASCAR and some other notable events. And I was watching the Upshot. Sorry, they dropped an episode today where they interviewed Jeff Spring and somebody from the Oklahoma Lottery that I think runs the Powerball thing. They're saying that basically, as it's so often the case, like somebody at Powerball likes disc golf and is like a COVID player. And so when this opportunity popped up, he's like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. And so that's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty big name. I mean, certainly people in the States and probably to a pretty good amount to people in Canada. I don't know about Europe, but, the Powerball name is a pretty big name. And so that's kind of cool. It'll be interesting to see what other kind of activations they do that are sort of Powerball related. on site. There's certainly a lot of opportunities. It's going to be pretty cool. I don't know. I think it's a great deal, and it gives them a good injection of cash, which they probably needed, and it's gonna help a lot. I also like that if nobody hits the ace all season, and it comes to MVP worth $18,000, that works out to $3,000 more than Cole Redolin won by winning the tournament last year. So that,
and all you got to do is
be pretty sick. Yeah, I'm going to have to lobby Steve Dodge to see if we can have it happen out on hole 14, because I'm going to be busy, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to take an ace, a run at that ace, otherwise. But who knows? We'll see. Apparently,
at least put it in the area that you'll be watching from.
That would be really convenient. I'll see if I can make that happen. Apparently, what they're going to do is FPO is going to go, and they'll do it on the Saturday of each tournament. FPO goes, and then before MPO tees off, they're going to have the Ace Challenge in between divisions. So I think that makes sense. And they said it'll be about a 200-foot hole, something like that. Either if hole 1 is about 200-ish, then they'll use that. Otherwise, they'll set up a new temporary tee or a temporary basket to make it about that. So it's going to be gettable. It's definitely going to be gettable. But I think it's like 5 people who have bought a ticket to the event can put their name in to try and get the name drawn. And I think you get one shot, and either you do it or you don't. So I think it's fantastic. I love it. I love that it's rolling over, and just the anticipation is going to keep building and building and building throughout the season. Fantastic. Love it.
If it does roll, if nobody hits it and it does roll over, the pressure on somebody throwing, if it's like legit worth like 18,000 or whatever by MVP, I couldn't even imagine that, to have that sort of pressure on, even if like you're not losing anything if you don't make it. Like it's not like you have to make it or you're going to lose $18,000. But just that pressure on, like, if I hit this, 18 grand just for dunking this disc in a basket, that I couldn't imagine. And I'm definitely interested to see what payouts will be like next year with a new big sponsor like Powerball. I know you were just talking about the Upshot podcast, and one of the things that I love that they do is the their payout tracker that they do for each event, and how it compares to previous years. And this year saw a lot of events either going down or staying just flat. Not a lot of improvements in terms of total purse. So hopefully a nice big sponsor like Powerball can bring in some more money for payouts, and will be better for the pros that are out there grinding to be entertaining for us. So definitely something I'm very interested to see. Before we move on, anything else that you want to add to that, Shawnee G? All right, we will move on then to some actual tournament recap. I mentioned at the top of the show we would have a bit of a recap. I will be 100% upfront and honest and say I didn't watch any of this at all. I will check it out at some point because it is on YouTube. But I've been not anti disc golf, but not exactly pro disc golf in the last 2 weeks in terms of watching or picking up a disc or anything. But Shawnee G was kind enough to give us a great recap breakdown from the first stop of the tour down under. Shawnee G, let's throw it over to you.
The Pro Tour is still on its winter hibernation, but some players have ventured to New Zealand for the Tour Down Under, which saw its first event stop go down last weekend at the 2026 Taranaki Disc Golf Open. Starting in MPO, names you might recognize from the tour include Bradley Williams, Corey Ellis, Aidan Scott, Luke Humphreys, and Nate Perkins. They were playing in a field of about 26 players, so decent. This event was never in doubt, though, with New Zealand native Levi Stout going wire to wire outright leading the tournament from, I think, hole 3 of round 1 and never letting go. He only had 2 bogeys and 1 double bogey across the entire tournament and ended up winning the thing by a comfortable 6 strokes over Bradley Williams in second and Corey Ellis in third. Over at FPO, the players you might know include Taylor Chosek, friend of the show Sophia Dunica, Jennifer Smiley, Sarah Hokum, Kat Murch, and a relative newcomer to the tour, Chandler Ray. Taylor Chosek got out to an early lead and held it through 2 rounds over Jennifer Smiley, but in the final round, Smiley turned on the afterburners and shot a bogey-free -5, while Taylor went an unfortunate +2. That 7-stroke swing gave Jennifer the win by 3 strokes. Sophia started off strong in third place after round 1 and ended up finishing a little bit out of the cash, unfortunately, in 5th place. Robbie, let me throw it over to you if you got any thoughts on this.
Yeah, I will take the usual Sean Galbraith role and do a ace shout out. There was 1 ace in the field in round 1, and that was from Kat Murch, which was the only highlight on that round, which saw her going birdie free. Usually you want to hear about bogey free rounds, but birdie free, 0 birdies, 4 bogeys, and 1 ace. Cashing in, I believe it was on a par 3, so an eagle. Absolutely incredible. And even still, she was still in the chase at 4th place and finished 3rd place in the end. The only other notable event was the Asia Open, which went down in Taiwan, and Calvin Heimberg, the only big Pro Tour name in the event, took it down by 6 strokes over Jackie Chen. Recognize that name as when Jackie Chen was starting to blow up in popularity as a copy and paste Paul Macbeth in terms of his form. It was like absolute textbook Paul Macbeth. And also Japanese legend Manabu Kajiyama was in the field, and he finished in 5th. Also saw he just got re-upped on Prodigy for another year. So congrats to Manabu for that distinction. At one point, the highest rated player on planet Earth, Manabu Kajiyama, hasn't been that way for a couple years now, I think. But at one point, he was the highest rated. And yeah, that's all I got. Shawnee G, anything more from you?
Well, I'll give a negative shout out to Prodigy for having 0 FPO players on their top pro team. That is crap and garbage, and they should be shamed of themselves. That's it.
Just insert the meme of the lady from Game of Thrones ringing the bell. Just shame. Just editor's note to Shawnee G right here. Right, you'll see my hand when you're editing it. Just right here. Place it. Yes, I agree with that. But Shawnee G, anything else that we've got to cover in this episode? This has been one heck of a episode. Thank you so much once again to Ben for coming on and having a lengthy discussion with us. We covered a lot and was a fantastic chat with him. So thank you once again. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for being a fan. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a follow on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. We appreciate it so much. And until the next episode, for Sean Galbraith, I am Robbie Holden, and then we'll see you on the course.